My name is Courtney Whitmore. I'm 35 years old. And the first time my boyfriend asked me to stay quiet, I didn't realize he was asking me to disappear. He didn't say it cruelly. That's important. If he had, I might have pushed back. Instead, he said it the way people do when they believe they're being reasonable, when they think their comfort should automatically matter more than your dignity. You make me look bad in front of my friends, he said, not looking at me. Just stay quiet next time. I remember nodding. Not because I agreed, but because I didn't know how to argue against something so vague it felt unprovable. We'd been together 8 years. No ring, no wedding. But shared keys, shared furniture, shared routines. The kind of relationship people assume is solid because it's lasted. We met through mutual friends. Dated casually at first, then seriously, then indefinitely. Looking back, I mistook duration for depth. My boyfriend Nathan thrives in groups. He loves hosting dinners, organizing get-togethers, being the connective tissue between people. He remembers names, drinks, inside jokes. He performs warmth effortlessly. I don't perform, I observe. I listen. I think before I speak. When I talk, it's because I have something to add, not because I need to be heard. That difference never felt like a problem, not at first. I showed up to his dinners, helped prep food, made polite conversation, answered questions when asked. I thought partnership meant showing up for each other, even when it wasn't your natural habitat. The comment that changed everything happened 3 weeks ago. We'd hosted 6 people, 2 couples from his networking group and his close friend Melissa, along with her husband. Wine flowed, appetizers disappeared. Conversation drifted lazily from work to renovations to politics. I don't seek out political debates, but one of the men confidently stated something that was simply untrue about a recent policy change. Not an opinion, just factually incorrect. I corrected him. Politely, calmly, briefly. He shrugged, laughed it off. Conversation moved on. Or so I thought. After everyone left, while I was loading the dishwasher, Nathan stood behind me, arms crossed. I recognized the expression before he spoke, the tight smile that meant conflict disguised as calm. Did you really have to do that tonight? Do what? I asked. Correct him, like that. He was wrong, I said. I just clarified. That's not the point, Nathan replied. You always do this. You always have to be right. I turned off the water. I wasn't trying to be right. I was trying to be accurate. It makes people uncomfortable, he said. It makes me look bad. That sentence landed cold. How does it make you look bad? I asked. Because you're with me, he said, as if that explained everything. I felt something shift in my chest then, a subtle recalibration, like a compass needle quietly spinning off north. So you'd rather I just smile and nod? I asked. Yes, he said immediately. Read the room. These are social gatherings, not debates. I stared at him for a long moment. Then I said, all right. The relief on his face told me he thought he'd won something. That night, lying beside him while he slept, I replayed other moments I'd brushed aside. Comments about me being too serious. Jokes about me killing the vibe. Suggestions that I should loosen up. I had always thought I was just being myself. Apparently, myself was inconvenient. 2 weeks later, Nathan announced another dinner party. You'll be there, right? He asked. Of course, I said. And he hesitated. I'll stay quiet, I finished for him. He smiled. Thank you. That smile should have warned me, because silence, I would soon learn, has a way of saying everything. The night of the dinner party arrived wrapped in soft lighting and quiet expectations. Nathan was in a good mood. That should have been my first warning. He hummed while arranging plates, checked the wine twice, adjusted the music volume until it hovered at what he liked to call effortlessly intimate. He kissed my cheek in passing, a small, absent gesture, like punctuation instead of affection. Everything okay? He asked lightly. Fine, I said. And I meant it, in the narrow way someone means fine when they've already decided not to matter. Guests started arriving just after 7. Coats were taken, drinks poured. Laughter filled the room in overlapping waves. I smiled. I nodded. I said hello. I asked how people were doing and listened carefully to the answers. Then I went quiet. Not sulking, not passive-aggressive, just quiet. I sat on the couch with a glass of wine and watched the room like a carefully composed painting. People talking over one another, small performances of charm. Nathan moving effortlessly from group to group, his hand resting on my shoulder occasionally, as if to remind everyone I was still there. At first, people tried to pull me in. How's work going, Courtney? One man asked. Busy, I said. That documentary everyone's talking about, have you seen it? Someone else chimed in. No, I replied, and took a sip of wine. The conversations moved on without resistance. I let them. Nathan kept glancing at me. I could see the calculation behind his eyes, trying to determine whether my silence was obedience or protest. It was neither. Dinner was served. I ate slowly, listening to the ebb and flow of voices around me. Politics came up again. The same topic, the same incorrect statement, almost word for word. I said nothing. Across the table, Clara, one of Nathan's oldest friends, kept looking at me. She frowned slightly, as if something didn't align with her memory of me. Halfway through the meal, during a lull, she leaned forward. "Courtney," she said gently, "you've been really quiet tonight. Everything okay?" Nathan answered before I could. "She's just tired," he said too quickly. "Long week." I looked at him, then back at Clara. "Actually," I said, my voice steady, "I was asked to stay quiet at these gatherings." The table stilled. Forks hovered mid-air. Someone coughed. The music suddenly felt too loud. Clara blinked. "Asked by who?" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't smile. "Nathan," I said, "after the last dinner party, he told me I make him look bad in front of his friends when I talk too much." You could feel the air thicken. Nathan's face drained of color. "That's not... Courtney, that's not what I meant." "You said," I continued calmly, "you make me look bad in front of my friends. Just stay quiet next time." So I did. The silence was complete now. Heavy, unavoidable. Clara's eyes flicked to Nathan. "Did you actually say that?" He opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. "She's taking it out of context," he said weakly. "She embarrassed someone last time by correcting them." "I stated a fact," I said, politely. The man in question shifted uncomfortably. "I didn't feel embarrassed," he said quietly. "I was wrong. It happens." No one laughed. No one rushed to smooth things over. Clara set down her fork. "Courtney's never been rude," she said slowly. "She's thoughtful. She actually listens. I've never once thought she was embarrassing." Nathan stood up abruptly. "This is exactly what I was talking about," he snapped. "You're making a scene." "I'm answering a question," I replied, honestly. He looked around the table, searching for support. No one met his eyes. "I need some air," he muttered, and walked out onto the balcony. The dinner party unraveled quickly after that. Conversations faltered. Guests made excuses. Within 20 minutes, everyone was gone. As Clara hugged me goodbye, she whispered, "I'm glad you said something." I nodded. So was I. Because once silence is broken, it can never be repaired. Nathan didn't come back inside until the apartment was quiet again. The kind of quiet that isn't peaceful, just emptied out. I stood at the sink, rinsing plates that didn't need rinsing, listening to the sliding door open behind me. His footsteps were slow, deliberate, as if he were rehearsing what to say with each step. "I can't believe you did that," he said. I didn't turn around. "Did what?" "You humiliated me," he snapped, "in front of everyone." I set the plate down carefully. I told the truth. "You made it sound like I'm controlling, like I don't let you speak." "You told me not to speak," I said evenly. "Those were your words." He ran a hand through his hair. "I didn't mean it like that." "Then how did you mean it?" Silence. I turned to face him. His anger was already collapsing in on itself, softening into something defensive and small. "I just wanted you to be more aware," he said finally. "You don't always read social cues well." "When have I missed one?" I asked. "Give me an example." He opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. "You talk in ways that make people feel corrected." "Name a time," I said quietly. He couldn't. The truth hovered between us, undeniable and unwelcome. We didn't resolve anything that night. We went to bed on opposite sides of the mattress, backs turned, the space between us louder than any argument. 3 days later, Clara called me. "I've been thinking about what happened," she said carefully, "and I feel like you should know something." I sat down. "Nathan's been talking about you," she continued, "for months. Little comments, that you're too serious, that you make things awkward, that he has to manage you in social settings." My stomach dropped. "I never thought much of it," she added quickly, "because when I'm actually around you, none of that is true." I closed my eyes. "He's been building a narrative," Clara said, "about you, and I think he started believing it." After we hung up, I sat in the dark living room for a long time. Validation and betrayal are a strange combination. Relief that you're not crazy, paired with the knowledge that someone you trusted has been quietly rewriting who you are. That night, I asked Nathan directly, "Have you been telling people I embarrass you?" He froze. "Who told you that?" "Answer the question." He sank onto the couch. "I've mentioned things, just venting." "What things?" He didn't answer. I nodded slowly. "So you let people believe I'm the problem, while telling me everything was fine." "That's not fair," he said. "Everyone vents." There's venting, I replied, and then there's character assassination. He started to cry then, not loudly, not dramatically, the kind of tears meant to soften the edges of accountability. I just look at other couples, he whispered. They seem so effortless, and we're just ordinary. Ordinary. The words settled between us like a verdict. So you needed me to be the flaw, I said, so you didn't have to admit you wanted something else. He didn't deny it. And in that moment, I understood something with terrifying clarity. He hadn't wanted me quieter. He'd wanted me different. We started therapy the following week. It was Nathan's idea, which almost made me laugh. Almost. He framed it like a gesture of commitment, proof that he was willing to work on things. I agreed not because I was hopeful, but because I needed to know whether what we had was salvageable, or if I'd already been mourning something that no longer existed. Our therapist, Dr. Reeves, had the kind of calm that doesn't rush to rescue anyone. She listened more than she spoke, let silence do the heavy lifting. By the second session, the pattern was impossible to ignore. Nathan, she said gently, it sounds like you've been trying to edit Courtney rather than understand her. He bristled. I just want her to be more social. She is social, Dr. Reeves replied. She attends your events. She engages. She listens. What you want isn't more social, it's more performative. I watched his jaw tighten. Then she turned to me. Courtney, it sounds like you've been shrinking to preserve harmony. I nodded. The truth of it sat heavy in my chest. The breakthrough came in week 4. Dr. Reeves leaned forward slightly and asked Nathan, do you want to be with Courtney as she is, or with the version of her you keep describing? He didn't answer right away. Seconds stretched. I don't know, he said finally. And that was it. There are moments in life where clarity arrives not as a shout, but as a quiet, irreversible understanding. That was mine. We separated a month later. No screaming, no slammed doors, just boxes packed slowly, carefully, like we were both afraid of breaking something that was already broken. Nathan moved out. The apartment felt larger without him, quieter, but the quiet was different now. Chosen. A few weeks later, we met for coffee to finalize logistics. He looked tired, smaller. I never meant to make you feel like you weren't enough, he said. I know, I replied, but intent doesn't erase impact. He nodded. We hugged. It felt like saying goodbye to a version of him I'd already outgrown. Life settled. I joined a small reading group, reconnected with friends who didn't need me to be louder to be valid. I spoke when I had something to say. I stayed quiet when I didn't. Last month, I ran into Nathan at a cafe. He was with someone new, a woman who filled space effortlessly, her laughter carrying across the room. He introduced me. This is Courtney, he said softly. She's incredible. I smiled, genuinely, because I no longer needed him to see it. I already did. People assume breakups end loudly, that there's a final argument, a last accusation, a door slammed hard enough to echo for years. Ours didn't. Nathan moved his things out on a Saturday morning. We worked around each other quietly, passing boxes down the hallway like strangers who happened to know where the light switches were. When he left, he stood in the doorway for a long moment, keys already in his pocket, like he was waiting for something to stop him. I didn't. The door closed with a soft click. For the first time in 8 years, the apartment was mine alone. The silence scared me at first, not because it was empty, but because it wasn't demanding anything from me. No adjustments, no calibration. No mental math about how much space I was allowed to take up. I kept expecting the familiar anxiety to return, the one that asked, am I being too much or not enough? It didn't. Instead, something steadier took its place. I started noticing how often I'd been bracing myself before speaking, how many sentences I'd swallowed whole, how I'd learned to measure my words not by their truth, but by how safely they would land. That muscle didn't relax overnight, but it did relax. I joined a small book club, ironically enough, full of people who paused before responding, who didn't confuse volume with insight. The first night I spoke, my voice trembled slightly. No one rushed me, no one interrupted, no one corrected my tone. Afterward, a woman smiled at me and said, I liked how you phrased that. I walked home with my hands shaking, not from fear, but from something dangerously close to joy. A few weeks later, Nathan emailed me. Not to reconcile, not to reopen anything, just to apologize. He wrote about therapy, about realizing how much he'd cared about how his life looked from the outside, about how he'd mistaken compatibility for chemistry and performance for connection. He wrote, I didn't know how to love someone who didn't mirror me. I believed him, and I let the email end where it belonged, in the past. I saw him again unexpectedly, late one afternoon at a cafe near my office. He was there with someone new. She was tall, expressive. Her laugh cut through the room like a spark, the kind of woman who fills space without asking permission. He noticed me first. "Courtney," he said, standing. "Hey." We hugged briefly, politely. "This is Rachel," he added, "my girlfriend." She smiled warmly. "I've heard a lot about you." "All good things, I hope," I said, half smiling. Nathan answered before she could. "Actually, yeah, all good things." There was no bitterness in his voice, just honesty, arriving years too late to matter. We talked for a few minutes. Surface level, weather, work, normal things. When I left, Rachel touched his arm and said something that made him laugh, loudly. It suited him, and for the first time, I didn't wonder why it hadn't been me. That night, I went home, made tea, opened my book, and sat in the quiet. The good kind. The kind that doesn't ask you to shrink. I thought about that dinner party, the question that cracked everything open. "Everything okay?" It had been such a small thing to ask, such a dangerous thing to answer honestly. But that honesty gave me back something I hadn't realized I'd lost. My voice. I use it now. Carefully, intentionally, without apology. And if someone ever asks me to stay quiet so they can feel bigger, I already know the answer.